please mute your phones. I just got to be doing mine because I sometimes forget and more ring or something. So please mute your phone, put it down where it doesn't disturb somebody because when they're talking and stuff. All right, first of all, again, I want to thank you all for being here. It's always nice to see. It's always nice to see people, and of course, a lot of you are regulars, and I love that. And because at least then y'all know what's going on in the city, and y'all know what's been said, and what's going on. So I appreciate that. And if you're here, that means that you're interested in what's happening to your city. So I appreciate that. If y'all would please stand for prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for everything that you do for us. Lord God, I pray that you'll guide us tonight to be able to make the right decisions to the best of our ability and to be able to serve the citizens of Bruceville-Eddy, because we do want to grow, Lord, and we know we all need your help no matter what. I thank you, Lord, for our first responders, our police department, our city workers, our council members, our city administrator. We thank you, Lord, so much for everything. In the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please can stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas pledge.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, and one indivisible.
You may have a seat, please. Okay, we're going to have our roll call. Better late than never, Gene.
You've been busy,
He's
Dave.
going to throw something. Tonight to my right, we have Councilman Griffin and Councilman Prater and Councilman Bass. And to my left, we have two council members out, Wiggins and Mr. McGruer. They are poor babies, or had to take a cruise. I mean, they were made, their arms got twisted. Yeah, and we have our city administrator, Kent Mann. So thank you all very much. We have our police chief, Chief Dorsey. We have our code enforcer, Mr. Arnold. We have Gene, our city water works advisor. I guess you can call him that. He's a specialist. If you want to know anything about the water, Gene knows it. Okay. We have Pam, our city secretary, and we have Mrs. McGruer back there. She is our court clerk and also operates the screens and the computers and things on the internet. And so thank you all very much. All right, citizens presentation. The City Council welcomes public comments at this point on items not specifically listed on the agenda. Speakers must sign up before the meeting begins. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each. The council cannot respond to this matter, nor not listed on the agenda until a further meeting. Do we have anybody signed up to speak tonight?
No.
Okay. All right. Citizens' requests for consideration. Grady Ari. Council discuss, consider, and possibly take action on a request by Mr. William Grady Ari to relocate water meters that serve his residents and others along State Highway 7 in Falls County. Okay, Mr. Grady, would you like to come forth and tell us what you're here for?
Yes, ma'am. I would like my water meter moved, and Mr. Cassetta is my neighbor. He would also like his water meter moved. They're both sitting out in pasture. I have right at a mile of private line, and it has not been an issue for a long time, but there is a piece of land that has been sold this last year, and it has become a very big problem because the man that bought it thinks he can steal my water line, and it's a private line. So when I put it in, I put in a 2-inch line, except for 520 feet. I put in a 2-inch line, and I had the full intent in donating it to the city then. They denied it at that time. I went ahead and got a meter and placed it down where it's at now. So I had water, and it never has really been an issue. But with this new man that's moved in there and is trying to steal water, I would like for y'all guys to have my water meter moved up to my property where all of my private line is on my place, and pretty much let y'all deal with the people that's out there.
Okay. May I ask you a question, sir? How has this man taken the water? Does he have a meter that connected to it, or does he have a...
He has tried.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. He has tried. He has told me several occasions. He offered to let me put a meter out there and sell him, and I was like, that's illegal. He said, I'm an attorney. I know more than you do. And the line runs through his property, which was just purchased this last year. There is an easement. There was a mistake made on the easement 25 years ago. The easement's actually in the city's name, or the city water department, not in my name. So he thinks he can just go out there and tie into it. And I know that that's not right, but that is the biggest reason why it's prompted me. It is kind of a pain in the butt to go almost a mile to turn my water meter off when I have a leak.
I'm sorry, I've got all these questions. I think I should part of the council. Okay, can you tell me why, at the time that you had your house there, why did you go so far for your water? Why did you not?
The end of the line is where the city line is where my water meter's at, and where Mr. Becetta's meter's at. We're side by side at the end of the city line.
Yes, sir.
And I dug a 2-inch line and put it up there to Mr. Becetta's yard in his driveway. And from the 2-inch line that I have already purchased and have buried for a long time, it's another 500 foot down there, 520 foot down there to the meters. And we asked, I forget what that man's name was. Ainsworth at the time. It's been a long time ago. It's been 25 years. We asked Mr. Ainsworth, and he told my dad, he said, oh yeah, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. We'll put a water meter up there at your place. And then we got the line put in there, and he said, oh no, we can't do that. We can't do that now. So we finished out the line with 3/4 or 1-inch line, and they put a meter out there. And up until this last year, it's not ever really been a problem. But now it's
okay. But I mean, he's not using your water now. He's just wanting to.
He's wanting.
Okay. I'm going to ask our water gentleman a question right quick. Gene, is there any way that this guy can hook into that without going through the city?
No.
He'd have to go through the city?
No. He would be tapping into a private customer line.
Okay.
So Mr. Arias could file charges on it for theft for doing that. City has nothing to do with that part of the line because it's a private line from meter to the house.
Okay. All right. What about, is there a reason why, I mean, as far as the city goes, you know, why he couldn't get a closer meter, closer past that man's house to his house? Or would that be something that we'd have to?
We'd have to give the engineer on, and then we'd have to make sure we got all the proper easements and everything for us to allow access if the water line's on the other guy's property between Mr. Becetta and Harry. We have to have access to that line.
Okay. We'd have to go through all the easement.
There is already an easement in the Bruceville-Eddy City Water Department for that line that's already there. Like I said, there was a mistake made when we got the easement, and it's not in my name, it's for my dad's. It's in the city of Bruceville-Eddy.
Yes, sir.
And that's why he was trying to take possession of it, because it was not in my direct
Right,
right.
I understand. Well, I'm gonna be quiet a little bit here to see if the city council doesn't have some questions. Okay, Mr. Fred?
On the easement, Grady, you said it is city, do we have that easement? I mean,
I'm not 100% sure.
I do have a copy of it, and I can bring it up here, or bring it to Richard later on. I probably should have thought about that.
yeah, we'd have to see that before we can make any judgment on it, but it's even is a private citizen even allowed to put a line in an easement for a city?
Gene?
I would need to.
We don't
have the same,
That would be an engineer or attorney question.
That's the engineer's question.
because we would have the same problem that you're having, probably even worse than what you're going through right now.
And I remember talking to Grady when the gentleman threatened to tie into his water line. I told him, you know, that it was strictly illegal. I had talked with the other guy, but I talked to Grady. And, you know, if something ever happened, you had to contact Falls County Sheriff's Department, deal with it, because, I mean, that's,
Yeah, you
he can't steal from you.
Well, it sounds like we.
You're paying for that water, he's not.
Sounds like we need a whole lot more information
Yeah.
before we make a decision on it.
He did drill into it and break my water line, and then he wouldn't reimburse me for the repairs.
And then he didn't fix it. He
No.
had you fix it.
Yes.
All right,
Well, if he's drilling in our easement, we should be getting, we should be able to find him if he does it again. We should be able to
yeah,
find
he
him.
needs to
and
get
not
hold of
take
Falls
it.
County.
Yeah, well, it's our line, so he would have to get over it.
Yeah, it's a private line.
But it's in our easement.
Yes, because he is in y'all's name.
So if we got any water running through our easement.
You need to bring us a copy of that. If you could bring it up sometime during the day
Yes,
and
ma'am.
come in and ask for our city administrator, Kent, and Mr. Manton, and then we can look at that, and then we can try to get a decision on that, or put you on the following agenda to talk about this again. But without the proper things showing us, because without us going, stopping everything tonight and going back and on the period to see where the easement is, because we don't know that.
Do y'all know anything else about the expansions in Falls County?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can speak to this. So our infrastructure planning committee is working on some significant, on a recommendation for some significant improvements in Falls County. So if it pleases the council, I would say that we refer this one to the infrastructure planning committee, because regardless of the easement situation right now, a mile of water line is going to be a significant liability to the city, and it's going to cost a whole lot of money, surprisingly so. So if we do have capacity to add that to our upgrades in Falls County, then that's where we really need to discuss that and bring that recommendation to council.
Okay, all right, so, sorry we couldn't give you a decision tonight, but I promise you we're gonna work on it. And right now, our code enforcer has something to say. Yes, sir.
If he's doing anything in the city easement, give me a call. I can put a stop to it as well.
That's our code enforcer, that's Mr. Arnold.
He would need a permit to do anything.
It's outside the city.
It's outside of the city.
It falls.
But it's in the city.
Falls County easement.
It's a city Bruceville easement, not city.
Okay, not that. I can still go out there.
Yeah, he can look tough. We can make him look tough out there.
Yeah.
So, but we will work on this, sir. And this is, if you'll bring that in to us so we can look at it, and we can start doing some stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very much.
Thank you,
Did you have anything else? Did your neighbor have anything you want to say, sir?
Well,
Come on up.
just
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
about the Henry thing. I'd like to get my meter moved up to my house too, because my meter's down in the field too. Why they didn't do that 30 some odd years ago?
Who
They
knows?
just, so they couldn't do it. That was the end of the line. If I wanted, I had to put a line down to get a meter. So
Yes, sir.
that's what I did.
Okay.
And I put an 1.5 inch meter, or line to the meter.
And you
And
have
I
a
think
2 inch.
and that was the rub, was they couldn't tie on an 1.5 inch. It had to be at least a 2 inch. But I wasn't informed of this until a few years later, and so, but everybody had water and everybody was happy, so we left it at that. But as Brady pointed out, now that there's other gentleman that's come into the picture, well, we'd like to have our meters on our property and let the city take care of the lines.
Okay,
Basically.
all right. Well, we appreciate your input, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So, Mrs. Mayor, they have no volume online. Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Yeah, we're going to take it is now, let me see, 6:15, and we're going to take a 5-minute recess so we can get some volume for online. Our online people cannot hear us. Can you believe it or not? They cannot hear me. I don't even need a mic. It is now 6:23, and this meeting is in session. On the last thing that we discussed on the citizen request for consideration for Grady Arnery, we're going to table that. So just want to let y'all know that was tabled. Okay. Number 4, citizen request for consideration, Dottie Coker. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action on a request by Miss Dorothy Coker to lease vacant grasslands owned by the city of Bruceville-Eddy for the purpose of cattle grazing. Mrs. Coker, you want to come up? And go ahead and tell them where it's at and what it, how, you know, where it's at and all that.
It's right behind my 10 acres,
Okay.
and it connects the my 10 acres to the satellite, or
The solar.
Thank you, the solar plant.
Okay. So,
And it has cross fence, but I will address the cross fences to make them higher, to make sure my cattle stay on that property.
okay.
And that way the city will not have to worry about upkeep or maintenance or anything else.
And you're wanting to lease this land?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions at this point? Okay,
How
Mr.
long
Bass.
of a- I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Bass. Mr. Prater, go
How
ahead.
long of a lease are you wanting?
As long as y'all can give me. It's 5 acres and nobody from the city is doing anything with it. I've been here over 4 years in this community and nobody's done anything with it.
What's the, in your opinion, what's the fence situation look like?
The fences are good, they're just in some places low. And in order to make sure my cows stay in where they need to be, I will raise them up.
I think we had a problem last time you requested it, that somebody else's bull was getting in your land, your bull was getting in their land.
Where the fence was breaking down, they was breaking down or something.
That was Carlos,
Yes.
and he had opened the gates and allowed my cows on his property. And then one time my bull jumped the fence and got on his property. That's why I'm talking about raising the fence up. So that will no longer happen before my animals are ever put out there.
Yeah. Because when this all happened, we were just letting y'all graze on it. There was no lease or anything. So now you're wanting to do it the right way and put up a fence, so a taller fence in that area so they can't get out, and make sure there's locks on gates and stuff
Yes,
like
ma'am.
that. And then
Yes.
there'll be a drawn up lease. I think it's what, your lease at a time? If somebody's at something like that? Is
We
that
can
that?
start off with the year lease. And
Your lease, and but if the lease is broke, well then, you know. So I mean, I'm talking loud. You're not talking loud enough. I don't know if the mic's too high for you or what, but you just. So I was kind of explaining what you were talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Bass.
Of course, it would be in the lease, but you'd have to release the city from any liability.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, like if the cows got out and got run over or something like that.
Yes, that's no problem.
Okay, but it would be better if cattle were in there grazing that rather than just letting it be wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Or having to pay somebody. to
yeah,
fix it.
so
Okay.
if the land's there, why not use it? the way I
Yes,
look
sir.
at it.
Mr. Griffin, you have a question?
Is water on that land?
No.
They would have water through my gate.
They'd
I
have,
have a gate that goes through there. And so I would just leave the gate open to allow my cows back on my property for them to access the water.
I have another question.
okay. Mr. Prater?
How many cows are we talking about?
I have 8. I'm fixing to sell 2 of the infants, so I'll be down to 6.
6. And will you be supplying water for them cows off of our water system, or is there?
I already am.
Oh, you already are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll just come back into her property
Yeah.
she owns now.
I got you. Okay, I was just wondering if there was a tank or something back there.
No.
On your property, I never seen it. Okay.
Anybody else have any more questions?
So I'll just say,
Mr. Bass?
yeah, that,
Kent?
Mr.
Yeah, we are leasing some land now to someone
That is correct.
for cattle, but a lot more cattle. But he has a lease and it's a strict lease. I mean, you're responsible for any accidents, anything that happens to your cattle. And if anybody gets hurt by your cattle, the fence has to be fixed. What else? Mr. Manton?
It addresses liabilities as well,
Liabilities and stuff.
terms, for the amount of time. It addresses the financial aspects, and so we can definitely draft up something very similar to that.
And how much is it per acre?
Right now, the other gentleman's paying about $20 an acre.
20 an acre.
Okay.
The current land is in a triangle configuration. It's right behind her land. This is correct. So that one's sitting at about 7 acres right now. So we're looking at about $140, $150 per year or so. If that's what the council would like to see next, say next agenda in February. Okay. So, any motion y'all want to make for that
You
one?
wanna
I'll
make a
get to
motion?
work on it.
I'll make a motion to figure out the details on getting that lease.
Get the
Rolled
lease
out.
drawn out.
Yeah. And I would like, I don't know if you can or not, but access to inspect your fences at any given time. Be okay.
Yeah,
If
we
that
got a
could be
code
done.
enforcer right back there.
Right. That's what I was
Yes,
thinking,
sir.
too, that we could go on this
Okay.
property and.
Okay,
inspect.
it says council discuss, consider, and possibly take action on a request by Mrs. Coker to lease vacant grasslands.
I'll second
You're gonna second it to that, to let her lease it?
it.
Okay,
After
After-
negotiations.
after we see the,
A lease contract.
after we see the lease contract.
Yes, ma'am. I'll bring a lease at the February meeting for everybody's approval.
Okay, does that sound okay to you, Ms. Coker?
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Make sure we take a vote.
Okay, all in favor? 3 yeas. Because there's 2 gone. No ties, so I don't have to vote. Okay. All right, number 5, public hearing, conditional use permit application for 208 Hungry Hill Road. Council to hear and consider public comments pertaining to a requested conditional use permit for a manufactured home to be installed at 208 Hungry Hill Road, Eddy, Texas, extension lot B, block 26, a property currently zoned for single-family residential home site. Okay?
So at this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing.
Yeah, okay, oh yeah.
So
It is 6:31 and our public hearing our meeting is closed. And it is 6:31 and I'm opening up the public hearing.
So, sir, this one is going to be just for members of the public who want to make a comment on your property.
Yeah,
So we'll
and
have
then
you
you'll be
up
the
right
next
after
one.
this.
I'll call you back up. And does anybody have any comments on this?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you'll step forward, sir?
No, not really.
Or you can stand up back, or you can just talk to us back there.
Yeah, you can probably hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, probably hear me from across the road.
That's me.
Yeah, I live next door to the property, out in Wilcox, 6 Hungry Hill. I
Yes.
got no problem.
You got no problem?
No, I've got no problem. I haven't had neighbors over there for like 30 years, so it's gonna be different. So, in fact, there was a mobile home there at once upon a time. My wife and I went on vacation, came back and it was there, so. Yeah, I've got no problem. They seem to be taking care of the place a lot more so than people that owned that property before, when the grass would be as high as.
And that's the main thing, sir, yes, sir.
So yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Is there anybody else have anything they want to say about it? No? Okay. So, it is 6:32 and the public hearing is closed. And it is 6:32 and our regular session is back open. All right, so, the public, let me go here, let me flip it over here. Conditional use permit number 7 for a manufactured home at 208 Hungry Hill Road. Council discuss, consider, and possibly take action on request from Maddie? Mia. And Doug Wells for a conditional use permit for a manufactured home to be installed at 208 Hungry Hill Road in Eddy, Texas. Extension Lot B, Block 26, a property currently zoned for single-family residential home site. Now you can come back up, sir.
And Mrs. Mayor, I'll just go ahead and speak on this one.
Yes, go right ahead.
So this permit application came to us a little bit earlier in the month. It is for an undetermined manufactured home on McLennan County property 105356 at the address we already previously spoke to. The applicant is requesting a potential home to be between the size of 1,100 to 2,000 square feet. Right now, we have not seen any plans or designs nothing's been submitted to the city on what it would actually look like or the size components, rooms, anything like that. The proposed use is currently inconsistent and contrary to our current zoning map that was established a while back. The adjacent property use and this property is all zoned currently for single family. The property across the street, however, has actually been designated as light industrial. So you can see a little bit down there. I've mentioned that the overall use as to what this applicant is proposing does seem to be compatible with the entire area, though, however. I think, in my opinion, my recommendation here, Danielle, if you'll move to the next slide there, that this would benefit the city having this mobile home here because the applicant is planning to, yes, but also to improve the home site that is currently there. And I know he will speak to that here in just a few minutes. Here's our current zoning map there. You can see the property secured within the circle, the red circle there. And Danielle, if you go to the next slide. So the property in question is highlighted there on the map. And then one more. So this is the pictures of the current property. You can see this is the front facing from Hungry Hill Road. And then if you go to the next slide, you can kind of see some of the adjacent properties. And as you'll see, I don't think a manufactured home in this area would be incompatible with current uses for residential housing. The next one. Okay, so like I mentioned, long-term benefits to this, I think will ultimately benefit the city, the values of the neighborhood, and this is a conditional use permit. So like we've talked about in the past, this will go with the land, and at any point, city can use these same steps, public hearing, notices, and everything like that to revoke the conditional use permit if there are any issues. 13 notices were sent out to adjacent property owners. I think I told you 12. And we'll go off on that. We also published this for 7 consecutive days. Ms. Pam did that in the Waco Tribune Herald. We have not heard anything back via email or mail or anything like that opposing this one. So that's all I've got.
I have a few questions.
Okay. What year is the manufactured home?
We haven't purchased one yet because we didn't know how this was going to go.
Okay.
But we plan on going to the record brand new one. It's going to be a 22 or 23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
22 or 23, 3-bedroom.
Mr. Prater?
Yeah, I went over and talked to a few of the neighbors, and nobody had a real problem with it, except for one lady who wanted to make sure that it ran with the road and not long ways. And that was the only complaint I heard.
And on the map I presented with you, I did have it running with the road.
With the road.
Yes,
Okay. That's the only question that we had, but it is going to be a newer model.
Brand new, maybe a repo if they got a better price on it, but.
Yeah, it's going to be in the 20s. It's going to be in the 20s.
That's the only complaint I heard, and it wasn't a real complaint. It was just hopefulness. Okay.
Anybody else had any questions?
Okay. Gotcha. I'm good.
Okay, it says here, council discuss, consider, and probably take action on a request by the Wells family for a conditional use permit. Do we have a, yes, sir?
I move that we approve item number 7 on the agenda, conditional use permit for a manufactured home at 208 Hungry Hill Road.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. And Prater? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous, all 3. Okay. Congratulations, we'll get you your conditional use permit going.
Thank you. Look forward to being more in the city.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Did that help you out, sir? He was the guinea pig, remember? Did that help you?
That'll make it easier for you.
Okay. Number 8, approval of minutes. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action to approve the minutes from the January 5th of 2023 special call city council meeting. Mr. Bass?
If Mr. Wiggins is not here, I move to approve the
Okay.
minutes of January the 5th, 2023, which was a special call city council meeting.
Okay. Anybody have a second?
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
No, go, he's got it.
Okay, Prater? All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, minutes are approved. Number 9, Police Chief's Report. Chief Michael Dorsey.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman, and Mr. Manton. Good evening, fellow citizens. I'd first like to start with our police department report for the month of December 2022. For the month of December, we had 121 calls for service. For arrest, offense, and incident reports, we had 19. Total of 4 crash reports. Citations and warnings, 85. 39 citations, 46 warnings. Also in the monthly packet for December, I included our call type report that breaks down all the different types of calls we received for the month. Also included, we conducted 302 security checks for the month, 10 school zone enforcement activities, and 9 active traffic enforcement activities. Also in your packet, you'll have the breakdown of the citations and warnings for the month. Also for December, I had Officer Basie, our school resource officer's report. For the month of December, he had 2 calls for service. He conducted 134 security checks at the school. Citations and warnings, he just had 1 warning. That covers the month of December. Then I also prepared a year-to-date for the whole year, January 1st through December 31st, 2022. So for the whole year, the Bruceville-Eddy Police Department had a total of 1,536 calls for service. For reports that generated from arrest, offense, or incident reports, we had 239. We worked a total of 86 crash report, or we took 86 crash reports. Citation and warning data total was 1,596, which breaks down to 676 citations and 920 warnings for the year. Also for the year, our year-to-date for security checks, we conducted 2,644. Directed traffic enforcement activities, 520. And then school zone enforcement activities, 350 for the year. Also included our call type report that has all the different types of calls we responded to for the year. Now also included our citation and warning data for each month for the year. I think it's 33 pages.
That's what we don't have to go through every one of them.
But that's just out there for
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
like to take a look at it. I went ahead, I thought about it today, I went ahead and did a year from August to December 22 for Officer Basie for the school resource. I just totaled up his different activities. He had 23 calls for service, 490 security checks, 9 citations, 7 warnings, and 4 arrests. And that's from August through December of 2022.
Busy at the school.
Yes, ma'am. As far as our reports, that's all I have right now. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief. Also, I want to recognize that Sergeant Martinez, another one of our officers, just came in. So he's at the back by the chief. He wasn't here a while ago when I welcomed the people here for the city. Okay, our next report is Gene for the Public Water Director.
So, I've got a copy of the workforce status reports that we had tonight.
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna go all over it because, you know, it leaks and turn off, turn on. Main thing is, I got an update. Electrician is done was his part at Fernie Oaks. We're waiting on pipe to come in, should be delivered tomorrow for that well, so we can get it back online hopefully next week. If it don't come online next week, then y'all gotta deal with Johnny Grady, because I won't be here the week after for a week, so.
Oh, okay, just for a week.
Another cruiser.
Got one on cruise.
Oh, you poor child.
And, Westridge well, I've got a report coming up on it, so other than that, trying to get some asphalt ordered. It's supposed to be there today, they never show up, so hopefully tomorrow, then we can do some patching. That's all I got.
I have a question.
Yes.
I noticed.
Oh, I don't answer questions, I'm sorry.
You don't have to answer.
No, you're good.
Take the field.
Take the fifth.
I noticed there's 30 leaks that you fixed.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I know probably why some of our pipes are 75 or 80 years old. But do you know offhand the percentage of water loss that we had?
No, not right offhand. I think it was 31% last month,
Yeah,
something like that. It's kind of hard to calculate
yeah.
on a leak because you don't know how long it's been leaking until you know about it. And you know, you just got to estimate. But I think that's what Laura said, around 31 or so. But I can start putting that on here or just adding it to it each month.
Okay.
And I'd like to identify more, instead of just 30 leaks, maybe trying to identify where they're at.
Yeah.
Falls County, Old Bethany, that way y'all can see where our main problem areas are.
Where you have so many breaks and have to fix them and all that stuff,
Right.
maybe we can improve those water lines and enlarge them.
We fixed one on Old Bethany, 6 inch in the bottom of the creek
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
Deep in
So that wasn't fun.
I know we've had some bad ones in the past. But
Right.
I remember 1 month or so, we had like 50% loss of our water, and that's a lot of.
Right. But we have not called for a contractor
Yeah,
in a few years.
yeah.
That one down there in that creek, somebody else would call a contractor, I'll tell you now.
Well, when your water system is as old as ours, especially in places you can expect this. So
Right,
that's the reason we need to upgrade.
exactly.
Well, I've been hoofing it.
Yeah.
I've been going to houses and knocking on doors and taking surveys. Me and Mr. Kent have. Okay. Anybody else have a question for Gene or anything? Okay. All right. Engineers report. Mr. Minton, you want to give that?
So if council has any questions, I can address those, but Mr. Taylor's report is unchanged from last month. So he's just waiting on the instructions for closing from the USDA.
Okay. All right. Code Enforcer Officer's report. Thomas Arnold.
Ladies and gentlemen, code enforcement, building inspections, and permitting for December 2022 report. We had 112 cases worked under code enforcement. Breakdown of that is 8 dangerous buildings, 1 dog on a chain, 2 no permits, 39 high grass cases, 8 junk vehicles, 2 living in an RV, 1 number of dogs case still pending, 3 unsafe pools, 46 rubbish, 1 septic system, and 1 skirting underpinning. Number of permits issued in the month of December, 2 permits. 1 was for a driveway and 1 was for an accessory building. Burn permits for the month of December was just a total of 5. Everybody doing holiday stuff. Inspections, 5 total. FEMP, mechanical rough, 2 installation permits, and a water yard line inspection. Facility maintenance hours done by me is 15.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Mr. Bass.
Yes, sir.
On the number and types of cases, 112 cases worked, how many of those have been, if any of them have been settled?
I'm sorry.
Have any of them been settled, or are they just in progress?
You mean how many are new versus how many are in progress?
Are they still in progress?
Have any of them been
Closed out.
or taken care of, or
These,
fines issued?
these are the cases that were open at the end of the month.
These are all open.
Yes, sir. Now, some of them have closed since January, but for the month of December, this was all the open cases.
I just wondering, if you follow through and actually get something done about some of these things.
Yeah. I can do the breakdown of open and closed cases per month. If I can start adding that to the report.
That would be
That'd
good.
be good.
Okay.
Did,
Yes, sir.
Did you have a chance to work on that one that me and you talked about moving one out and one right back in?
As far as for the permitting,
Yeah.
I'm still working on it.
Still was, okay. I was just checking.
I think we're hoping to bring it to February.
Okay, sounds good.
I think.
All right, anybody else have any more questions for Mr. Arnold? Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, City Administrator's Report, Kent Minton.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Mayor. So the first one here is the sewer system. We are still in a holding pattern for the most part with USDA, expecting to close that loan in the month of March or April. Had a few little minor taskers to do with our USDA rep. She wanted some agreements with our new city attorney ironed out, so we've got that later on the agenda. Right now, we're just waiting on this legally required 45-day holding pattern before we can update this bond ordinance. On the solid waste front, so I was able to meet with the district manager of Waste Connections, Jimmy. He was out here for the hearing back in December. So we were actually able to hash out bulk and brushy waste going forward. So this is a service that was supposed to be provided that hasn't been provided the city of Bruceville-Eddy for some time now. That's starting on February the 1st. Any resident that wants to get their bulk or brush picked up can call the city. We will send over a report on Tuesday afternoon, and then that will be picked up on Wednesday. So it's an as-requested service. Just give us a holler. There are some things that aren't, allowed to go with that one, and there are some requirements on how that brush is supposed to be kind of bundled up for their collection services to pick it up.
How can we get that list to the citizens of how they need to wrap their bundles or whatever?
Good question, sir. So we've already posted some information on our website about what's allowed, what's not allowed, how to set it out by the curb. Right now, Danielle is actually working on an infographic that we're going to put on the website, and I do plan on putting a blast out to Savvy Citizen when we have all that information. That way, everybody can kind of just click the link and see the website and see what they need to do.
They can see it now on the website?
Yes, sir. On the website, under departments, solid waste, then we have a section there for bulk and brushy.
I just
So the basic requirements on that. Yes, sir.
They asked me. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bass?
I want to go on record that this week my trash was picked up one day late.
One day late, yes, sir.
So I know they're trying to do better and promise to do better, but keep an eye on them.
Yes, sir. We are continuing our monitoring efforts. On this note, they did let us know ahead of time that they were having issues. I think it was a mechanical failure,
Yeah.
correct, Danielle?
Yeah, they had a electrical issue on one of the trucks. They sent out a second truck, but that truck didn't make it out here with enough time to finish. So we posted on Savvy Citizen that there would be quite a few people that wouldn't be picked up until the next day. The next day they came out, that truck had to dump and then come out,
Yeah.
and then they finished and let us know that they finished.
They did.
Well, I understand, things happen, and I can understand that, just so they don't get back in the same old groove.
Yeah.
And then another thing on the brush pickup, since I've been here, going on 13 years, they've never, to my knowledge, have picked up brush. The city used to pick it up,
Okay.
and the city quit doing that. I don't know whose idea that was.
That was a prior city administrator
Yeah.
that decided that it would be better if the city had a dump for it to be dumped in.
Yeah. I think she decided that on her own.
I think it was
Yeah.
her and
She did a lot of things on her own.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where that was
Didn't
at.
mean to interrupt.
No, it's quite all right.
So this will not affect our roll-off service. We're going to be providing that once a month. We may, depending on how much that's getting filled up, we may readdress the second roll-off that we're doing in the summertime. I'll get with Gene on that one, kind of talk that out.
I'm leaning more towards March, starting this last of the month.
Okay. Okay, well,
I'll be
check
there.
it out. It's good.
I got there every time they have one.
Okay, so on the next one here, so I let the council and the mayor know our engineering services. So for the last 20 years or so, we've had Tabor and Associates, and due to the recent appointment of another firm to handle our community development block grant, Tabor and Associates has effectively resigned from our water system and our city plating services. So in response to this development, we have entered into a short-term agreement with Fine and Associates to interim agreement until the month of February. And we plan on bringing council several different recommendations here to consider for different engineering services, as well as we're going to look back and try to re-engage with Tabor and see if we can't resolve some of the conflicts that we have over agreement on that.
But he is still in charge of the sewer.
Yes, and so this will not affect his sewer contract. He is still moving forward with that project. I've reached out to about 7 different firms. We've already got a couple of responses on proposals for those engineering services. So I expect to be able to bring forth 2 finalists, similar to what we did with the city attorney a couple months ago. Lastly, I think it should be noted that this hiccup is delaying our efforts to upgrade those lines in Falls County. We were planning on bringing this all to the Infrastructure Planning Committee earlier this month. That's correct. And so because we had this agreement, because we couldn't get any information that we were requesting, we decided to postpone this until we get some engineering services fully in place. Okay, street committee reports. So the street committee met for a 3rd time this month, and after plenty of consideration and research, members have selected to make a recommendation to City Council for the repair of 4 streets using our budgeted funds. Those streets are going to be Archie Lane, excluding the unimproved section, North Mesquite Street, Temple Street, south of 3rd Street, and then Osborne Street. So we solicited several bids for this, but ultimately a partnership with the county is really the only feasible option we have right now due to cost. We still know that the sewer system is coming and it's going to be impacting a whole lot of roads. So it was really kind of tricky to navigate that system, and the committee really took the time to delve into which streets are going to be best to address at this time. We want to make progress on those streets, but at the same time we want to be mindful that some of those streets are going to be torn up with the sewer system. So right now the county is working on getting some bids for materials. They do that in February of every year. We expect those costs to go up, which is kind of why we pulled back from some of those roads we were looking at previously, adding to this list. But we hope to have an interlocal agreement maybe in March before council for approval and consideration, and then after that it will go to the county's commissioner's court for final. And then lastly here, just on the development front, we're still working with K-Bar, that's Travis Kraus, his subdivision off Mackey Road in 107. Right now our city attorney is reviewing some of the recommendations that they had to some of our ordinances, maybe requesting a variance or a public improvement district to move that project forward. Subdivision off of 107. Recently, we've heard from a developer out there that wants to put in upwards of 200 meters. Of course, this is all in the very preliminary planning stages, and everything that we are considering has to come before council for any approval on that one. Right now, that project is on hold because we don't have a city engineer to really give us a yay or nay on those water meters, whether or not we're going to be able to provide those. CEFCO, so over the last week or so, myself and our building inspector / code inspector, we've been in a lot of talks with representatives over at CEFCO. They are working on designs to reestablish their gas station out on I-35. They've kind of fast-tracked this one, so you'll probably be seeing a variance request at next month's meeting for the sign height. So just kind of a heads up, that's coming. Lastly, you probably have seen the work that out at BERV Park and BE Safe Storage, they've already been working on making some expansions out there, so kudos to them. And then lastly, the travel center. So we did hear back from RSK Engineering, and they sent over some preliminary designs on the facade and the overall look of the actual building. So they do plan on submitting the plat and the zoning change request and everything before council, but I don't have an ETA on that timeline. Okay, the next topic here, repair progress on Friendly Oaks well. So Gene already covered that one. We'll move right past that one. And then lastly, I just wanted to inform everybody that Mr. Murrah of 5M Associates is going to go ahead and submit a application for a grant to have a sidewalk improvement from downtown to the school. Now, right now, where we're at with that process is this is a preliminary application. So I know I haven't mentioned a whole lot about this one. He asked for our approval to kind of throw this out there, see if it sticks, see if we get invited to actually do the application for the grant. So that's where we're at with that one. It's a pretty big, broad scope project, but there will be plenty of time for planning and public comment throughout the process. And that is all I have here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Citizens have any questions on that? Okay. 14, finances, October, November, and December of 2022. A, council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action to approve the October, November, and December 2022 financial report for the general water and the sewer fund account, and B, for the October, November, and December accounts payable for the general water and sewer fund. So we have the financial report for the general funds and accounts payable. Does anybody want to make? Yes, sir, Mr. Bass.
I move that we approve number 14 on the agenda.
A and B.
A and B, which is the October, November, and December 2022 financial reports for the general fund, water fund, and sewer fund accounts, and also approve the October, November, and December 2022 accounts payable for the general fund, water fund, and sewer fund.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Prater? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, number 15, annual financial statement with independent auditor's report. Adam Haber?
Haber.
What?
Haber.
Haber.
Haber, yes.
Haber. Okay. Haber. It looks like Haber.
Haber, yeah.
Yeah. Haber. Yeah, it's too many ERs on there. Haber.
I think I've had a chance to meet most of y'all before, but for those of y'all I haven't met before, I'll introduce myself again. My name is Adam Haber. I'm one of the audit partners at BGFN. We're a CPA firm in Temple, Texas. I've been with the firm for about 14 years now, and we've been doing y'all's audit for as long as I've been with the firm. So that's quite a long time. I've been involved in some capacity with the audit for the last 10 years. However, this was the first time in the last 2 years that I was actually the one to come out and do the field work and actually perform the audit. So it was nice to come back out and meet some, or see some old faces again and meet some of the new ones.
Old faces.
Old acquaintances. So I just want to, again, I want to thank y'all for having me out tonight to go over the financial results. Y'all each have the financial statements in front of you. So the first thing I want to go over is when you open up the very front page, there's a letter right inside the cover. I want to go over that letter a little bit with you. This is a letter that we're required to send out at the end of each audit, and it's addressed to the City Council. And some of the things in this letter on the first page, just kind of goes over some of what we think are the key things that we want to make sure that if you were to read anything in the financial statements, these would be the few things that we want to make sure you read. It goes over some of the estimates that are in the financial statements. It goes over some of what we think are the most important disclosures. So that's kind of what's on the first page there. The second page of this letter kind of goes over if we had any disagreements with management, if we had any major audit findings during the audit, this is where we have those things listed. I'm happy to say we didn't have any issues with management, didn't have any disagreements, we didn't have any major audit findings either. So we didn't really have anything too interesting to report in that part of the letter. So that's everything to do with that letter. I just wanted to go over that a little bit so you know what that was about. With that, I'll get into the financial report a little bit. If you want to turn to page 1, I'll start there. And what this page is this is our independent auditor's report. This is kind of the most important part of what you're going to find in the financial statements. And this is where we give our opinion on what we think how the financial statements are. And the most important part of the letter is right there at the front under opinions. This is where we give our opinion on the financial statements. And I'm glad to say that in our opinion, the financial statements for the city for the year ended September 30th, 2022 were good. And they presented fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city. And that just means we gave you a clean opinion, or what we call an unqualified opinion. So everything was good. We didn't have any major issues, no major findings. If you have a chance at some point, I would recommend reading the rest of this letter. There's some good information in there. It kind of gives you, talks about what your responsibilities are as a city for the financial statements. And it also talks about what our responsibility for the financial statements are as being the auditor. So if you get a chance, I would recommend reading that letter to read about that information. Going further into the financial statements, we turn to page 5. This is the beginning of what we call management's discussion and analysis. And really what these next few pages are is just an overview of the financial statements in a narrative form. Pretty much everything, all the information that are in these next few pages is what I'm going to go over the next few minutes. So I'm not going to read through all this because I'm going to kind of go hit on all these points in just a few minutes. But if you get a chance again, I'd recommend reading these next couple of pages if you get a chance, because it gives you some financial highlights and just an overview of the changes in the city financials over the past year. With that, you can turn to pages 8 and 9. I'm not going to go over these two schedules in too much detail because I'm going to get into it a little bit more with some schedules later on in financials. But I did want to point them out to you because on page 8, you're going to have, this is your statement of net position. And I wanted to point it out because one, it kind of shows the city as a whole that has both your governmental activities, which is basically your general fund, and your business type activities, which is basically your water and your sewer. So you kind of see them on the same page. And it's also in comparative form, so you can kind of see the changes between 2022 and 2021. And then on page 9, this is your statement of net position, or change in net position, or what we say, or your revenues and expenses for the year. And again, it breaks it up in between your general fund and your water and sewer fund. It's also in comparative form, so you can kind of see the changes between 2022 and 2021. And this is more of just like a broad overview. It kind of combines a lot of the areas and it condenses that information. We're going to look at some reports a little bit later on and go into a little bit more detail. But if you want just a broad overview, these would be the statements to look at. The one thing I would want to point out would be on page 9, towards the bottom, 3 lines up from the bottom. There's a line called change in net position. Another way you call that is basically your net income. And I just wanted to point out that for this year, 2022 and 2021, you had a surplus or net income in both your general fund and your water fund. So, didn't have any losses, didn't have any deficits. You had surpluses for the last 2 years. So I just wanted to point that out. With that, I'll get into some of the statements that I said would have a little bit more detail. And I'm going to start on page 18. And we're going to look at each individual fund. So I'm going to start with the general fund. And on page 18, this is the balance sheet for the governmental fund, or the general fund. So basically, this is the assets and liabilities for the general fund. A couple things I want to point out. Start out at the top with your cash and cash equivalents and your investments. You had about 2.7 in cash and investments to end 2022. This is pretty comparable to what you had at the end of 2021, where you had about 2.8 million in cash and investments. So not a lot of change in your cash and investments over the 2 years. Next is going to be your what we call taxes receivable, and that's basically what you still have left to collect on your property taxes. And that's, so you have about 11,000 of delinquent taxes still to collect on your property taxes. Next is cash and cash equivalents and what we call restricted. This is the cash that you, what we call restricted, and it has to be spent on specific things. So really what makes up this balance is you have what we call a tech building and court fund. These are a percentage of the court fines and fees that you receive every month. A percentage of that has to go into what we call the court tech and building fund, and it can only be used for things to improve the court. So those funds are in this number. Also included in the restricted cash is the CLFR funds that you received. You received the first tranche, I believe, in 2021. You received the second tranche in 2022. We'll be holding on to these funds to use for a future purpose, a future project. But they have to be used for specific purposes or almost specific expenses or expensive projects. So that's why we're showing those in restricted cash. And then also included in that restricted cash is all the cash that y'all received for the asset forfeiture program. Those funds that come in from the asset forfeiture can be used for certain expenses for the police department. So those are considered restricted funds. And, those funds that are still left over are included in the $783,000. For the liabilities, accounts payable about $70,000. Really, what makes up that was a truck that you bought pretty much right at the end of the year, and right at September 30th, y'all bought a new vehicle. Didn't end up paying for it until October. So it shows a payable at the end of September 30th. So that's what that balance is. And then the state criminal costs and fees payable. This is the amount that you collected in the fourth quarter of your fiscal year from your court fines and fees that's due to the state. And then under your flow inflows of resources, really this is just deferred revenue. And again, you see the deferred CLFR funds and revenue. You've received those funds, but you're not going to recognize that in revenue until you go assign those to a specific project. So until you start spending those funds on a specific project, we're not going to recognize any of that in actual revenue. So we're calling it deferred revenue for now. And with that, you get down to your fund balance, and basically what your fund balance is your assets minus your liabilities. And so what your fund balance is what's left over to spend on future operations. And again, your fund balance is kind of split in between two categories, restricted and unassigned. I kind of already talked about the restricted portion. Your restricted fund balance is basically your restricted cash. And then the unassigned is basically all the cash and investments that are left over that are unrestricted that you can use for however you see fit for future operations. So all in all, at the end of September 30, 2022, you had a fund balance in the general fund of about $3 million. And this was about a $245,000 increase over 2021. And that $245,000 increase is basically the net income for the general fund for 2022. And we'll see how you have that $245,000 in income as I go over the next schedule. We'll go over the revenue expenses for the general fund. So does anybody have any questions over the balance sheet for the general fund?
No, I was just going to say, overall, the city of Bruceville-Eddy is in real good financial shape.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it is in strong financial shape.
And y'all been doing this 12th or 13th year.
As I said, I've been with the firm for 14, and I know we've been doing it ever since I started. I'm not quite sure.
You started when I started, and I'm in my 13th year.
Okay.
We like to never got somebody that would do it. It was so messed up, and y'all did it. So I can't remember all the people's name in the firm except Niemeyer.
He's still there. He's still here.
Yeah.
Right, with that, I'll go to page 20. This is going to be your revenues and expenses for the general fund. And at the top, you're going to have your ad valorem taxes or your property taxes. There was an increase in your property tax revenue for the year. And that's because basically the property values increased for 2021 or for 2022. So that's why you see there was a slight increase in your property taxes. Sales tax, there was a slight increase in your sales tax that you collected in 2022 as well. In fact, you've seen a slight increase over the past 3 years in your sales tax. It was about $92,000 in 2020, it was about $101,000 in 2021, and you're up to about $112,000 in 2022. So you're seeing increases in your sales tax over the last 3 years. Your franchise tax has been pretty consistent and comparable over the last few years. It's been about right at $56,000 for the last couple of years. Fines and forfeitures is going to be your court fees and fines. It was about $287,000 or just under $288,000 this year. That was a decrease over last year, in which you had about $401,000, and in 2020 you had about $516,000. So you've seen kind of significant decreases over the last 3 years in what you're bringing in your fines and fees. License and permits, again, consistent and comparable over the last couple of years. It's always been about $15,000. Interest income, and you did see quite a big increase in your interest income. This is the interest you're getting on your investments in cash. And that's because the interest rate on those accounts went from about 0.15% up to about 2.5% this past year. So it's a significant increase in your interest rate there. So brought in a little bit extra income. And then under lease and miscellaneous income, that was a significant increase this year. It's up to 371, and a lot of that is going to be what y'all received in your asset forfeiture program. Y'all received about $338,000 this year in your asset forfeiture program. So that's why you're seeing that big increase there in your miscellaneous income. Then under expenditures, we've split it in between your general government expenditures, your public safety, and your streets. You had a decrease in your general government expenses. It's down to about $279,000 in 2022. And both, basically you saw a decrease because one, you had a decrease in your legal fees. I think y'all wrapped up the little bit of litigations you had going on. So you didn't have nearly as much in legal fees in 2022. And also, in the prior years, y'all had a lot of expenses related to making this beautiful new building. Y'all didn't have a lot of those expenses in 2022. So that's why you saw a decrease there. Y'all didn't incur those types of expenses last year. In public safety, you did see an increase in your expenses for public safety, and that basically boils down to y'all purchased, I think, 3 new vehicles during the year, and also installed bulletproof glass. So all those expenses are going to be included in that public safety expenditures, and that's why you're going to see an increase in 2022. So overall, you had 1.3 in revenue, about 1 million in expenses. So the result was a net change in fund balance or net income of about $245,000. And again, that's why you saw the increase in your fund balance in 2022 because of $245,000 in net income for the general fund. Anybody have any questions over the revenues, expenses, in the general fund?
No, sir.
All right. With that, I'll move over and we'll look at the statements for your water and sewer fund on page 22 and 23. This is going to be your balance sheet for the water and sewer fund, or your assets and your liabilities. Again, I'll start at the top, and cash and cash equivalents. You had about just under 2.3 million in cash and cash equivalents. In the water fund, it's pretty consistent and comparable to 2021, where you had about 2.1 million. So quite a bit of cash on hand. Your accounts receivable was about the same as well. You had about 169,000 in accounts receivable in 2021 compared to the 164 you had at the end of 2022. And basically everything in accounts receivable is basically in your September water billings. You don't have a lot of outstanding uncollected accounts receivable on all the water bills, so most of that is going to be from your September billings. Next is going to be, again, your restricted cash. You have about 395,000 in restricted cash, and all that is pretty much going to be your reserves that you're required to have on your debt. So that's all debt reserves. And next is the other big thing is going to be your capital assets, and that's basically going to be your water system. And I think the biggest addition you had to your water system this year was you replaced the motor at the Friendly Oaks well. And then under the sewer fund, you'll see $817,000 in expenses. That's all, anything that has to do with trying to get the sewer up and running and constructed. We consider construction in progress, and all those expenses are captured under capital assets in the sewer fund, and they'll sit there until the sewer is up and running. And at that point, we'll start to depreciate it. Until then, we just accumulate the expenses related to getting that going in that account. We move down to the liabilities. Everything under the liabilities was pretty consistent, comparable to the prior year. The one thing I did want to point out was under the line item accrued liabilities, that was a pretty significant increase there. You see about $94,000 in accrued liabilities. Basically what that is it's the deposit you received from Creekside Ranch Development. It's the money that they've given y'all to cover the incoming expenses that are going to be related to that development. I think they gave you about $101,000 at some point during the year. And that's what basically what remains of that deposit to go towards that development. Next is going to be your bonds and note payable current portion, about $334,000. Basically, that's going to be the principal that's due on your debt for this current fiscal year. That's what you'll be paying on your debt this year. And then bonds and notes payable long term, about $1.6 million. That's what you have left to pay on your debt past this year. With that, we go over to your total net position. And again, that's your assets minus all your liabilities. You have about $4.1 million in net position. 1.6 of that is made up of your capital assets minus the related debt. 3.1 million of that net position is unrestricted, or what available to use for however you see fit and for future operations. And then you do have some restricted net position. You have your debt reserves that's reserved for your debt. You have some reserves for your capital projects, and then you also have the customer deposits that come in when they open up a new water account or water meter account. That $54,000 is that money that you collect as a deposit on those new meters. Does anybody have any questions on the assets or liabilities of the water and sewer fund? And with that, we'll go over to, and we'll start looking at the revenues and expenses for the water and sewer fund. And that's going to be starting on page 25. Up at the top, first thing I'll point out would be your water revenue for the year. It increased over 2021. You had about $1.5 million in water revenue in 21. It increased to about 1.7 in 2022. And really what that boils down to is going to be your summer months, May, June, July, and August. Those were your biggest usage months. In fact, if I remember correctly when I was looking at it, I want to say over that 3-month or 4-month period, the usage increased about 30% compared to the prior year. So it was a hot and dry summer this year, and we saw it in the usage. So that's why your water revenues increased in 2022. Garbage, water tab, and your other operating rooms were all pretty consistent and comparable to 2021. Those are all pretty much in line with historical averages. So the overall, you ended the year with total revenues in the water and sewer fund of just under $2 million. Under operating expenses, there's a few items I want to point out. One's going to be your water purchases. You spent about $339,000 on water purchases. This is going to be what you purchased from We Bought Water Supply. That actually went down in 2022 compared to 2021, and that's because the monthly minimum that they were charging you actually went down in 2022. I think they were charging you at a minimum for 9.2 million gallons per month in 2021, and they decreased that to about 8.8 million gallons in 2022. So that's why even though y'all's overall water sales went up and usage went up, your water purchases went down because they weren't charging you your monthly minimum for a blue line went down. Next thing, your water system utilities, that increased slightly in 2022 as well, and that's just because utility rates have gone up. Who hasn't been hit hard by the increase in utility rates over the last year? Everything else was pretty consistent and comparable to 2021, not a lot of change. The only other one that really changed a little bit would be your garbage collection fee. That increased about $10,000 in 2022, and that's because I believe y'all, your rate increased, I think, around June or July of 2022. So that's why those expenses increased slightly in 2022. So overall, you ended the year with about $1.4 million in operating expenses in the water and sewer fund, compared to your $1.9 million in revenues. You ended the year with net income of about $468,000 in the water and sewer fund. So again, you saw surplus in your water and sewer fund. You started the year with a net position of about 4.6. You added in the $468,000 in net income. You end the year with net position of about $5.1 million. Anybody have any questions over revenues, expenses, and water sewer fund? So again, to reiterate, had surpluses in both your general and water fund for this year and last year. City's looking strong, good financial position, and audit went well. Didn't have any major issues or problems, so that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Y'all worked hard, more than I could do back there. Okay, so we need to take action on approving the city's facial year for 2021-2022. Do I have a motion?
No.
Mr. Bass?
I move that we approve item 15 on the agenda, which is approving the city's fiscal year 2021-2022 financial statements and annual audit with an independent auditor, and I can't think of the name except Niemeyer.
Yeah.
So I move that
Harper.
approve that
Okay.
and accept it and approve it.
Okay, second it. Griffin, seconds. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. 16, hunting lands agreement. William Burkhead. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action on a hunting land license agreement with the Texas Park and Wildlife Department on land owned by the city of Bruceville-Eddy for the FY 2024 hunting season. Okay, you want to talk about Mr. Manton?
Yes, ma'am. So Mr. Burkhead with Texas Parks and Wildlife contacted us several months ago and inquired about setting up a hunting lands agreement for the property we own, and we plan on making it into a wastewater treatment plant here over the next couple of years. So did some research on this one. Right now, this one isn't going to be contrary to the current lease that we have on the land for the grazing. This is something that a lot of other private entities and I'd say government entities have gone into with the state. The land agreement for this would grant folks who get a hunting lands license through Texas Parks and Wildlife the ability to come and hunt for certain game species. That's dove during the dove season, rabbits during the first split of that dove season, and feral hog during the first split of dove season. So we're looking at a pretty small window of time over that fiscal year 2024 hunting season. So this is coming up next September, right? It's not a whole lot of money here. We're looking at $520 is what they'd be paying the city for this one. Some of the other benefits that we'd be getting is, just kind of contributing to that, hunting education for youth, for other public members, providing that access, maybe drawing in some customers into the city who might want to go have a meal after they get done hunting or something like that. Also, they're going to be sending out game wardens to the area, so we're probably going to see an increased, law enforcement presence in land that is kind of adjacent to our border limits in the city. So it's got several questions on this one regarding our liability. From everything that I've seen in this agreement, we're going to be pretty well released of any potential liability here. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't be sued for something. That's always a potential with the city, but we have a lot of limitations on that one. Of course, this is speaking as not legal counsel, right? So sections 2 and 3 of this agreement, they allow for continued access to the property by ourselves and by our current leasee. And it also allows us to, modify that lease if we need to. So with that, I'll entertain any questions or motions or anything that you have for me.
Mr. Bass?
Well, I want to know if it's all right with the man that has it leased with his cattle out there, if he would want people out there hunting. And then I can see the dove and quail maybe, and I guess rabbits.
And wild hog.
And wild hogs, they need to be thinned out, I know that.
That's the only 3 things.
But if they have deer rifles or something out there,
no deer.
there are some houses that would be close enough, depending on where they were. So have you talked to the man that has it leased about?
No, sir, I have not reached out to Mr. Parker on this one.
Yeah. I'd say if it's all right with him, maybe it would be all right, but otherwise, if he doesn't want it, I wouldn't agree to it with that.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I think, I like the idea of it, but if we've already got it leased at one place with the cattle, that's a big problem. That's not everybody shoots straight.
Yeah.
Me being one of them, but yeah, I've been on a lot of research. Cattle got shot.
Yeah.
Small cattle, small black cattle get shot. Thinking they're
And then too, when the sewer plant goes in out there, the wastewater will be used to irrigate the land out there. So that's just going to be one of the uses for it.
Yeah. I maybe want to find out
From it. That has the lease.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Absolutely, and William said he apologized. He had something else come up. He couldn't make it tonight, but maybe if we postpone this to the February meeting, I could do some more research, and maybe he'll be able to come back out.
All right.
So
Let's just table it.
we table it.
Yeah.
And see what the other guy thinks. That
Yeah,
guy's
okay.
leasing it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Bass says table. And I have a second to, okay, Mr. Griffin?
Oh.
He had his finger up over there.
I know
Okay.
personally, if I were leasing that and had cattle, I wouldn't want people out there.
Yeah.
I would put up with that in the past. Years ago.
Okay, so we're gonna table number 16, hunting land agreement, okay? Until we can get some more information on that, okay? Number 17, Blue Bonnet Director nominations. Council to discuss, consider, and probably to take action on Resolution 1-26-2023-1 nominating Public Works Director Gene Sprouse and a primary candidate and Johnny Grady as an alternate candidate for election to the Board of Directors at the annual meeting of Bluebonnet Water Supply Corporation. Mr. Gene?
So that's a yearly thing that we have to do. And I know when our previous administrator was here, she wanted it rotated. Well, if I'm doing it one year and Johnny's doing it next year, well, he's already missed something that's going on that year. And I've talked to Johnny and he's in agreement, just keep it the way it's been.
You've been doing it a long time, that's what it should be.
It's not like I want to go just because, it's a little bit extra money in my pocket. It's, so we know what's going on. So
Better have a bird in nest.
Yeah.
Whose turn is it this year? Johnny?
I don't know. 'Cause I've been on the last 3 or 4.
Gene's been doing it the last 3 years
Yeah.
straight, so.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at with it.
Okay. Anything else on that? Anybody have any questions or would take action on this? Okay, Mr. Bass?
I move that we approve appointing Gene Sprouse as the primary candidate, unless it's Johnny's turn, and Johnny Grady as an alternate candidate for an election to the Board of Directors at the annual meeting of the Bluebonnet Water Supply Corporation. They have a vote for the city.
Yeah.
I think there's what, 8 members?
Yes, every entity that they sell water to has a board member.
There, yeah. Okay. Do I have a second? Mr. Prater? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. All right, Gene, there you go.
All right.
We got that done. Okay. West Ridge Water Plant, repair to groundwater well. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action to address mechanical issues at the West Ridge Water Plant site that has resulted in its inoperable, yeah, there you go, ability to, including the approval of any needed repair and related expenditures. Okay.
So we've had that well pulled. That pump and motor are out. So needless to say, we're gonna get a higher bill from Bluebonnet this month. But with Friendly Oaks down and West Ridge down, we'll have to send Talbot water and Bluebonnet water all the way out. The cable is bad in the well, so they're going to have to replace it. And what was it, 14 pieces of pipe were bad. And Kent may have some pictures, if not, I'll take you.
We don't have you here,
More welcome to
but they're
look
really bad.
We've got one
Oh,
picture
there
up
they
on
are.
the screen.
Yeah, I've seen that.
There's those pipes. See how that one is, I mean, they're just
The
terrible.
total bid that I got on that one is $39,163 to have the repairs made on that well.
39,000 for all the repairs?
$39,163
For that well,
for the pipe, the cable, the new pump, new motor.
beginning to end.
Yeah.
Turnkey.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've already pulled it and checked the well, the pump and motor to determine
It's
both of them.
39,000.
And Danielle, if we'll go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more on this one.
Okay, 39,000, what did you say?
163.
Okay.
Yes, and
39,163.
I'll talk a little bit about our recommendation here in a minute.
Okay.
But just so you can see, you know, we've got 3 groundwater wells. We got an intake from Bluebonnet Water Supply Corporation. You can see the differences there. West Ridge is our smallest producing well. Move on a little bit.
Real quick,
Okay.
if you remember last month, I mentioned that it being out and I didn't have it full right away for that reason. Friendly Oaks are 440 gallons a minute. West Ridge at 90. That was my most important is Friendly Oaks.
So on the next one here, and Gene did kind of talk about that one a little bit, the relationship between that Bluebonnet minimum, right, and how much we're pulling in from our groundwater wells. There's a balance that goes on with that one. So at West Ridge, you know, it's been down for a little bit. Yeah, that's going to affect how much we're purchasing from Bluebonnet, but not as much as Friendly Oaks or Talbot.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. We have a question on the floor. Yes, sir.
Fixing West Ridge, is that going to increase the amount of water it'll pump?
No, because it's a shallow well, it's not as deep. And it's only 3 inches in diameter as opposed to 4 on the other wells.
Okay.
They get a bigger pump and motor.
So the water plant issues here, you can kind of see a comparison over the last couple of years of how much we've pumped out at each well. So Talbot is definitely our highest performing well. We obviously get most of our water from Bluebonnet, but every groundwater well matters, especially in the summer months when we're pumping at capacity. One more, Daniel? So our recommendation on this one for council is if you would approve this in an amount not to exceed $45,000, that gives us a little bit of wiggle room just in case something else goes wrong out there. Yeah, we'll try to get this back online and get the water flowing.
We definitely need it. Need it fixed. Okay, do I have a Okay, council discuss, consider, probably take action on this. Mr. Bass?
I move that we approve, addressing the mechanical issues at the West Ridge Water Plant in an amount not to exceed up to and not to exceed $45,000.
It's needed repairs, okay.
Second.
Then second, Mr. Griffin. All in favor? Okay, let's get her done, Gene.
And I will get, word to Mr. Browder tomorrow to get everything rolling on that one, so he can order the pipe. One other thing too, a lot of customers don't understand why we have blue line water, why we're paying so much. We have to have a secondary source on our system. Because if all of our wells go down, what are you gonna do for water?
Right.
At least you can get groundwater, surface water, so that's why it's there. It's not because we're wanting to charge citizens more, it's, we gotta have it.
We
It's
gotta
a
have
law.
it. Yes. All right, thank you, Gene, very much. Okay, number 19, police vehicle repair authorization. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action to address mechanical issues with the police unit number 4, a 2017 Chevrolet Tahoe, authorization of Chief Dorsey to manage the repairs and the spending thereto in an amount not to exceed $6,500. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. We did have an unexpected expense come up with one of our Tahoes. It's a 2017 Tahoe. It has about 93,000 miles on it, but it is one that we've outfitted with the ballistic package. And everything else is good on it, except for the transmissions going out. And my plan is to keep it in service, keep it to hopefully 200,000 miles, so it still has some life left in it. But the transmission is failing. I did call around first to a couple of shops that would rebuild it. And now I took it to Jim Turner Chevrolet. We've used them in the past, and they do a lot of work for Waco PD and the sheriff's office and Hewitt. And so they've done work for us in the past, and I've been pleased with them. And when there has been a problem that they've done, they've made it right. And we haven't had to incur any additional costs when they've had to go back and fix something. But they did say, whenever I took it to them, they mentioned that they would have to take the transmission, break it down, figure out what the failure was, and that GM could potentially pay up to 50% for the repair. But due to it being outside of this powertrain warranty, GM is willing to help us with the cost, but they're willing to give us, the initial cost of the repair was $6,776.52. GM's willing to pay $1,177.65, which would bring the cost for us out the door to $598.67.
Now that's a brand new.
And that's a brand new one.
Brand new.
I called around
with
to a
100,000 mile.
Yes, ma'am. I called around to a few places that would rebuild it, and to rebuild the transmission is in like the $4,000 range. So this $5,500 is for a brand new transmission that comes with a 3-year, 100,000 mile warranty. So, you know, especially with it, you know, being a police vehicle and what we use them for, I feel better getting a new one and knowing that, you know, it's brand new and it's going to last, and we don't have to worry about any issues.
Yeah.
there.
Well, this, to me, it's a no-brainer. $1,000 difference to get a brand new one, considering to rebuild.
As far as paying for this, I was going to utilize $5,000 out of asset forfeiture, and then the $598.67 remaining to come out of our regular budgeted maintenance line item for the vehicles. So that way, there'll be money left over in our vehicle maintenance and repair line item to last us the rest of the year.
Mr. Prater has a question.
Is that coming out of the forfeiture fund or?
5,000, yes, sir.
It will be, so it's not costing the taxpayers nothing.
Well, we'd be paying $598.67 out of our regular budget for the vehicle maintenance and repair, and then $5,000 of that would come out of asset forfeiture.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
And I know the request was for 6,500, but the total cost out the door would be 5,598 and 67 cents. So $5,598.67 is the total repair cost.
Which Chevrolet gonna pay the rest of it?
They're going to pay $1,177.65. The only other thing I have to add is the service manager is out for the rest of this week, but they are going to try to see if GM will give a little bit more. So there is a potential there, but I don't have a definite answer on that yet.
Okay. Yeah. But we know for sure we're getting the 1177.65.
Yes, ma'am.
It could be more.
It could potentially be more, but that 1177 is a definite.
All right. Do I have a motion? Mr. Bass?
I move that we approve up to $6,500 to repair the police unit number 4, which is a 2017 Chevy Tahoe.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Griffin? All in favor? Oh, unanimous. Okay, Chief.
Thank you all
Here we
very
go.
much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, number 20, agreement for legal services sewer system. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action on resolution 1-26-2023-2, authorizing the city administrator to enter into agreement with our appointed city attorney, Mr. Brad Bullock, and the law office of Messer, Fort, and McDonald for the purpose of providing legal services for our forthcoming sanitary sewer system.
Thank you, Mayor. So on this one here, like I was talking about a little bit earlier in the night, USDA did task us with getting a specific legal agreement with our new attorney ironed out. Basically, all we've done here is taken the old one that was done for Naaman House, Smith and Lee, and we've just inserted everything for Messer, Fort, and McDonald. And so I just ask for your approval on this one. We'll send it over to USDA and get everything cleaned up there.
Okay, do I have a motion? Mr. Bass?
Question.
Yes, sir.
This is more or less, I mean, he's already our city attorney.
That's correct.
USDA wants someone specifically named for the loan and grant.
Yes.
You got it. Yes. They have a lot of specific requirements.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Well, I move
all right.
that we allow the city administrator, Mr. Manton, to appoint Mr. Brad Bullock and the law office of Messer, Fort, and McDonald for the purposes of providing legal services for our forthcoming sanitary sewer system.
Second it? Okay, Mr. Prater seconds. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, all right, sir, you can get that taken care of. All right. 21, agreement for professional services, Wendy Millam. Is that saying that right? Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action to approve the city administrator to enter into a 1-year agreement with Mrs. Wendy Millam for the purpose of providing cleaning services to the city hall. Okay, Mr. Prater, Mr. Letton.
All right, so as you mentioned, Mayor, this is for a 1-year agreement. This is a service we haven't had here at City Hall for quite some time. We're working with pretty limited funds. The market right now, we had about, I want to say, maybe 3 or 4 people come and give us some quotes, and Wendy's really the only one that was able to provide a quote that will work here for the city. We're trying to be good stewards of your resources, but at the same time, we're also trying to make sure that staff aren't constantly having to be pulled away to spend time cleaning. We want to focus on some of those bigger picture goals that the community has. So what this one will look like, the services will be provided by Wendy. She works kind of around the area. She's a local resident. She also has a business partner. They will be coming to City Hall during open hours, so this isn't something that we're going to be given access to after hours or anything like that. We will provide the consumables, but Wendy has mentioned that she requires very little. I think she's just talking about some alcohol, some hydrogen peroxide and stuff like that, and just bare essentials. The services will be every other month. So kind of a deeper cleaning every other month, and then every month before our city council meeting, she's gonna come in and do a quick cleanup, touch up the trash cans, check the bathrooms, that kind of stuff.
Because I tell you what, I mop this. It takes a while, and a lot of huffing and puffing. Okay, all right, so, do I have a motion to approve the city administrator to enter into a 1-year agreement with Mrs. Wendy Nolan?
I'll make it.
Okay, Mr. Griffin makes that motion. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
and Mr. Bass seconds it. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, community announcements. Do we have any announcements?
I've got a few. If no one wants.
Okay, I don't think anybody's got anything.
We got a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Danielle.
I don't see it on the list, but the fire department's chili fundraiser is,
February 11th.
there you go.
February the
I know
11th.
that's coming up and that needs to be said out here.
$12 a pot.
It's good chili too. Very good chili.
11 o'clock until roughly
Sold out.
around 2 when they sell out.
I was there.
All right, thank you, Gene. On our side, we already kind of talked about the bulk and brush and trash collection. Just a reminder on that front. And then next, we had a regular meeting scheduled for February 23rd. So on that one, just kind of want to go ahead and put it out there. We will be sending some notices, but we do have a petition to close a public street. So the unimproved section of Archie Lane. There's a petition currently before the city secretary, and we'll be bringing that up for discussion and debate at the next council meeting. We have started survey work for our community development block grant. That's a requirement. We have to get out there and do income surveys for us to get any money. So myself and the mayor have already started knocking on doors. She's way ahead of me, I think. 14-1. So we'll be around the horseshoe. We'll be around 3rd and 4th Street. That may change.
He's got Horseshoe Bend, and I have 3rd and 4th
Who's the
Streets
one
in
you got?
between. Huh?
He's only got one.
He's got one. He's got yours.
Oh yeah, I have 2. I have yours.
Oh, okay, you got another one. Hey,
You got one.
2.
So we did have a meeting scheduled on February the 9th for training for council and staff. That one is going to be changing. So I'll get back to you on a potential date for that one. We got to hash it out with our attorneys. They got called to court on an unrelated matter. Also, just a reminder, download Savvy Citizen app if you haven't done so already. Making some changes to the calendar. We want to start plugging in some more information in there. That way y'all can get as much information as possible. We only have so many ways to, be able to actually engage with our citizens, and that's really the easiest, most cost-efficient way is for us to just send out a quick blast. So, police department has access to that now, so they may be sending some important updates on maybe a intruder at large or something like that going throughout the city. Obviously, we hope that doesn't happen, but that gives them the ability to communicate with them directly and immediately. Also, we send out a lot of notices on leaks, pressure changes, stuff like that. So it's a really important tool.
Closing of City Hall.
Yes. And that's all I have.
Okay.
I'm going to adjourn.
Okay. Mr. Bass made a motion to adjourn. Mr. Whoever. But Mr. Griffin seconded, I think. That's what I heard. Okay. It is now 7:51 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all very much for attending. We appreciate you.